you visited different places that were important to the story of
Yes.
Genghis Khan. What did it feel like? What are some memorable things about just the experience of standing there?
Yes. I really set out mostly to visit the cities he had conquered across Central Asia and all. And there was so little to learn. I mean, everything was kind of known of whatever the chroniclers had recorded. The archaeologists had found whatever they had found. And I get there, and he hadn't spent much time there. He didn't identify with it. I wasn't feeling anything. But in Mongolia, I would go to these places, and I would know if Genghis Khan came back today, he would know exactly where he is. There's no road. There's no sign. There's no building. There's no power line going to nothing. And just to smell the air, to feel it, to see the animals, and to see what kind of animals live here, what kind of plants are growing here, you begin to get a feeling for how he was thinking. And then you begin to see, I know which direction they came from. The only direction they could come from was that way. You begin to see it, and his life starts to unfold in a very dramatic way. That I have the text, but the text is like it has no scenery, no props, nothing like that. The Mongols all understand their way of life. They don't need to explain anything. They know which way the gear faces with the sun. They know all these things. But for me, that's how I learned it. It was from being with the people. It was the most important thing. And this was starting in the 1990s. And the people, at this time, they were amazed that I would come. The Soviet era had just ended. Socialism was just ending. Democracy was starting. And Genghis Khan had been forbidden to them for almost the entire century. And every known descendant of Genghis Khan was killed in Mongolia. Following the secret history, that became the key to writing what I wrote. Take the history, which is difficult to understand. You have to go over, and I often never understand different parts, or I change my mind and think it was yes, now it's no. But the secret history is a valuable document. And to me, also, it's the opening document of Mongolian written language. And I think it's very important how do people begin their written language. And they begin it with the words, Dere Thinges. From highest heaven came the destiny of the blue wolf, who was married to the tawny deer, and their descendants, who came from the great sea to live at the base of Mount Burhan Khaldun.
And then integrating the spiritual elements of nature, the mountains and the great sea, and this kind of just like a deep connection to nature that they have.
Mongolia is a world that, for the most part, is the same as when Genghis Khan was there. We cannot say that for hardly any other place in the world. Certainly not for America, but just a few hundred years ago, it was entirely different. People, languages, everything. But you can't say it for London or Moscow or Istanbul, Constantinople. All of these things have changed so much. But Mongolia is still Mongolia. It's one of the largest countries in the world in space, with the fewest number of people, about today 3.3 million. And they're spread out, and they live in their environment in such an intimate way. This was important for learning about Genghis Khan, how he thought, how he hunted, how he strategized for war. You learn that from the people today because they are still there. They're still living.
What's the open Mongolian steppe like? As we return to the feeling of Temujin and Genghis Khan, what's it like looking at this place that has not changed since his time?
The first thing I think about the steppe is that you can see forever in every direction. There's no building, nothing to stop your line of view. And it's like being in the ocean in many ways. So you have this extremely open space, and the wind is usually blowing through it. But it's extremely fresh. It's coming out of Siberia. It's coming out of the Arctic. It sweeps down across Mongolia. Cold is the dickens sometimes, but it's always fresh, always fresh. So you have the wind coming in. You have the smell of the wind, but also then there's grass. The smell of grass becomes very important. Now, because of the particular location, from one year to another, one area may have grass one year and then drought the next year, another area has grass. So you don't always know. If it's not grass, it's dust. You have dust going in, the dust doesn't smell so good, it doesn't feel so good. But that's just one more part of the country. The waters are mostly pure. Now, unfortunately, there has been pollution in this century from mining in several areas. But even when I was there, even today, when we go to some place like the Sailing River, where we talk about the Market Lift, so it's a place of pure waters, and that's how Mongolians define their world, is by the water. Genghis Khan does not give lands to his sons to rule. He gives waters and people to rule. They do not refer to the earth as land. They refer to the earth as dale, ocean, the sea. And so water is very important. And to learn the rules about water, you don't camp by water. If you camp by water, your animals and you are going to be polluting it, messing it up. So they're back, maybe in our modern terms, about 1 kilometer back. You take the animals to the river to drink, and then you take them away. You do not bathe in that river. You take the water away from the river, and you bathe away from the river, so you do not pollute the river. The rules are very strict and very clear, and they're from the time of Genghis Khan, about how to deal with. Well, also, it's dangerous to live close to the river because there are flash floods in the summertime. You could suddenly have it, and it could wipe away if your camp is right there by the water. So the people, they live with nature in a way that I don't see anywhere else in the world. And even today, with the changes with the cell phone and with solar panels, and they could get TV out in the middle of the steppe, still, they're living a similar life. The young people, of course, want to drive a motorbike, but they're still herding cows and yaks and camels. If it's on a motorbike, okay, they're still doing it the Mongol way.